Okay, good morning YouTube. Today we're going to be working on elephant molar or elephant tooth. This is not ivory. This piece of tooth is available from giraffebone.com. As far as I know, it's available internationally if you order from their online store. Also, you can find them at the Blade Show, and you can speak to the guys there about the any legal issues that you might have about getting the elephant tooth within or outside South Africa and into other countries. But yes, so go to giraffebone.com. This video is made in conjunction with them to show you guys and anybody else using this particular material on how to work it, some of the ups and downs and the tricks to get what you want out of this particularly troublesome material. So now we're going to cut to the workbench, and I'm going to go through a couple of things on what to do and what not to do when working with a piece of elephant tooth. Alright, so here we have our piece of elephant tooth. Now the elephant tooth comes in a big block which has been cast in resin, like you can see here. In the case of this one, while I was cutting it with the angle grinder, sadly it broke. You can see the chip there, which is going to make drilling it a little bit more challenging. But there are a few simple tricks which you're going to have to do anyway if you want to work a piece of this beautiful material. First thing we have to do is seal up the cracks. Now, while the stabilizing process is very good, it sets the tooth in some nice resin, the downside is there are still tiny cracks and stuff in it that can cause a problem. So we take some super glue. Now this is very fine super glue. This is called Wood Magic. You can see it's very fluid, like water, and this goes into all the cracks. So the first thing we want to do is take the block and just run the glue over the whole thing, looking for any cracks. Wait for the super glue to dry and fill it up again. Alright, so once that's all sorted, the next step is to tape it up. Now you can use masking tape. I would recommend duct tape. The duct tape has got more strength to it, but for me right now I only have the masking tape. But I found the masking tape works alright. I would prefer duct tape, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm going to tape it up now once the glue has been dried. So, the piece of tooth, your piece of molar, is now protected, and this holding it nice and tight prevents it from rattling around and the potential for pieces chipping off. So now we need to mark where we want to drill the holes. So I know which way around it goes. So it doesn't matter how I pick it up. I know that this is on the top and that's forwards. It always goes on like that. Now I've marked it. I'm going to have to grind the angle off a little bit here, but I want to keep it square for now, just so that I can drill my holes nice and neatly, because if you put an angle on it, the drill wants to slip a bit. Alright, so I'm just going to neaten up these lines. Alright, so now we've got all our lines marked. We know which way to drill. Everything is now ready to take to the drill. Now I have to point out one thing before we start drilling. This stuff doesn't file. You can't stick a rasp in it, you can't stick a file in it and clear it out once you've drilled your holes and we've cleaned the holes with the tip of the masonry bit, that's the shape of the hole. What you're going to have to do is grind the tang of your knife to fit the hole, which is why I always suggest you use a slightly bigger drill bit than you need, and work with that. Alright, so we're going to go to the drill and we're going to start drilling this sucker. Good time. Alright, so here are the two drill bits that I use for my drilling of the elephant molar. This is just a smaller 6mm drill bit, sorry, 5mm, and this is a 7mm drill bit. Now these aren't conventional masonry bits. You can see they've got a slightly, come on, focus. There we go. You can see they've got a slightly lower profile than a conventional masonry bit. Basically, these bits don't stick out as far. And she's got some little bit of, I don't know what they call it, fluting or whatever here on the sides. And there's the other one. So yeah, so small, low profile. These are like general purpose ones. These can be used for drilling steel as well. So go to your local hardware store and ask for a general purpose masonry bit. Okay. Now, just so you know, that a drill bit that you try and force through, come on, focus. There you go. That's what it looks like when you try and force a drill bit through a piece of enamel. It melts the tip and it rounds the edges. This is a titanium bit. So yeah, don't do that. Alright, so next thing is we set it up. Now for this, the particular tang I'm working on right now, we can use the 7-bit, but it's 7 in the base, but it's with this little extension here, it's a little bit wider, it's almost 8mm. So it's going to drill about an 8mm hole. Even though the width of my tang is about 9mm, so I'm going to have to grind my tang down. This is the only size bit that I could find at the time. So we're just going to have to compensate. Knife making is the art of compensation. Alright, so there you go. That is your bit that we're going to use. Now we're going to stick it in the machine. Alright, so now I've got my block of material set up here. And I've got my bit in nice and tight. Now, I use a very high speed because I need this tip of this bit to tear through as fast as I can. If you work it too slowly, it doesn't work the material fast enough and tends to overheat. So, it sounds strange, but faster is better. So, let's see what I've got it set at now. Yeah, that's way too slow. We're just going to quickly set that faster. Alright, so now I've just quickly changed the gears on the top of my drill here. There you go. Nice and fast. Now what we're doing is we're lining it up with the lines that we've got. Make sure your block is also ground correctly. Don't clamp it too tight. We want it tight, but don't want it so tight that it's going to break the enamel. Because remember, this is, while being super hard and super tough, it is also quite brittle. A little bit. There we go. Alright, then I check that it's in the middle there. I'm sighting this way now. Okay, because I normally draw square like this, but because we're doing it facing the camera, I have to do it at this axis. So, safety glasses on. Let's drill this sucker. So now I'm just going to raise the camera up so we can see it from the top. Alright, here we go. Okay, now the problem I'm having here is that right here is a piece of enamel. Now the drill bit wants to walk off center to go to the softer material. If you've got a universal vise that you can clamp to the table of your drill press, do that. It'll prevent that from happening. But mine isn't like that. So what we've got to do is I just got to drill very carefully to get through that point. Now once we're through, we're good to go. Now you're going to find as you're drilling, it's going to go through the different layers of enamel, kind of like the different cores of different layers of strata in the earth when they drill for oil. So we're going to get soft parts, hard part, soft part, hard part. When you get to the hard part, bear down, push through it as fast as you can. Okay, so now I'm through that first layer of enamel, and here's another important tip: turn on a fan because this stuff stinks. Okay, another important tip is to constantly clear the hole. Alright, so I'm going to drill again so that you can see. You can't keep drilling. So, as I get through the pieces, the layers, clear the hole out. Here's a piece of enamel. There you go, now we hit a piece of ivory. Nice and easy. Okay. So there we go. Our first hole is drilled. Now we have to change the angle. We can't just drill the same angle. We have to change it slightly. Although my tang is mostly parallel, there is a slight angle to it. Now the method I'm using for here is we're going to be drilling halfway, then we're going to drill halfway from the other side, and the two holes are going to meet in the middle. Enamel. You can see the soft dust from the ivory. You hear the squeaking as it hits the enamel. Bear down and push through it. Don't forget to clear your hole. But that vibrating that you're hearing is what will shake the tooth to pieces. That's why we put the tape on it. Boy, I tell you, some of that stuff really doesn't want to be. Thanks to this trusty bit. You can keep it cool if you want. It is quite hot. Just get a spray gun and spray it. But try not to get the material wet, because I find the steam builds up when it gets hot and it'll cause it to crack. So you've got to do this dry. Alright, second time now. We're gonna set up the other side. There you go, that's quite nice. Tighten it, and off we go. Let's see if we can see it. There you go. The bottom one you can see slightly off. Top one, bang on. Look at that, nice straight hole. Now we're going to use the drill bit like a Dremel bit, and we're going to use it to clean the space between the holes. Okay, it's slightly off. In fact, it's not that off, it's just because the drill bit walks around in a bit in the beginning. So now I'm going to walk the drill bit between the two layers very slowly, working my way down, then I'm going to turn around and do it on the other side. Examining the piece, you can see the hole. Come on, there we go. See the hole quite nicely. If you recall, at the bottom it's slightly off center, so I'm going to use the tip of the drill bit kind of like a Dremel bit and try and clear it out, because we can't file that hole. Okay, there's a little space on each side. See this little hump in the middle. I need to try and get rid of those. Okay, now I've removed those humps off the sides. It is now relatively smooth. start fitting the tank. Okay, so I've got my khachi, that's South African for small hole. Well, not South African, it's Afrikaans for small hole. And obviously it's not going to fit. But like I said, we are now going to take this to the grinder and make it fit that. Alright, it's pretty close. Much closer than I thought it would be. So the next you see, this is going to be have been ground down and round and just narrowed a little bit. It is very thick to start with, so me removing material from this is not a big deal. And also it needs to taper a little bit towards the end to accommodate the threaded nut that I'm going to be putting on. So next you see that should be fitting right up to the Damascus spacer that I put on there. Alright. Alright, now you can see I have ground down the tang a little bit. Not a hell of a lot. Tang is still pretty strong and thick. I've just had to round off the edges. This is a tip that I will do in another quick tips video. Basically stating that we drill round holes, not square holes. And this also reduces your filing time and fitting of handles anyway. But like I said, that's a video for another time. So now we can put on the spacer, and I've adjusted the angle of the guard, of the piece of material, of the tooth, and that's going to go over there nicely like that. There you go. Now it's fitted. I can weld my threaded rod on the end of the tang here. We can fit the butt cap so that we can assemble it all in one piece. And then the next step is the shaping of the piece of material. But just so you can see what it looks like, let's see if it all held together. Let's unwrap this and see what we've got. Come on. Here we go. Here's the piece of tooth. We inspect the crack. Crack seems to have held together very nicely. Yeah, this is ready to go. Okay, so I've set it up as an angle. You can see quite nicely there. Like I said, pommel. The next you'll see is we're going to work on the shaping. Now for this one I'm doing a plain old oval handle with a little bit of a flare at the back. Mainly because with this particular material, it's slightly easier to work in a simple shape like that. You can do more complicated shapes. It does require more effort, but just for this, we're going to keep it simple. Alright, so now I've got the piece fitted up nice and neatly. I've gone ahead and marked the radius of the guard, of the spacer that I've put here. You notice I finished the spacer. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind this to match up nice and slowly and carefully. And then on the back here, I've marked off the shape of the back of the pommel so that I can work this piece as a unit by itself. I've marked off the basic shape of the handle. This will be adjusted as I'm working. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grind these off, both sides, and then I'm going to continuously line it up with the handle. Don't drop your pieces. Because if you drop your polished pieces, you have to polish them again. Here we go. So clean that again. Oh well, it's not a big deal. Alright, so I will grind and fit until that looks as I need it. Alright, so here I've got a fresh 36 belt. I'm using the wheel rather than the platen to grind this. The reason we do it is because the smaller surface contact area on the wheel when we're working will grind it faster. I also use the serrated wheel, if you have, works very nicely. Serrated wheel also grinds faster because of the spaces. It gives you a more concentrated pressure point every time it makes contact with your work, and it grinds a lot faster. And yeah, so I'm using a ceramic belt here, fresh 36 grit, just to do the grunt work. I've got the fan going, so I've got a cross breeze here that's hopefully going to blow all the dust away, the stinks. So protect your eyes, wear a gas mask if you have, or at least cover your mouth in some form or fashion. And yeah, off we go. I'm just going to grind it to shape. I've got the knife sitting there, you can see the tip of the knife over there, and I will be taking that every now and again and fitting it to make sure the shape is right. Okay, so I've rounded it on a 60 grit. I used the hard belt to keep the layers even so that you don't get uneven wearing. I'll use as many hard belts as I can until I get to the final grit. At this stage I'm going to go over it with super glue just to fill a couple of cracks like there and gaps. This is just the stuff that you find inside the tooth. It's to be expected. So once that's done, I'll polish it up and the handle will be, this part of the handle will be finished. Okay, so I've super glued up all the potential cracks. Now I've got a fresh 400 belt. This is a J-Flex, so it's a soft back belt, but I've got it at a very low speed. The low speed will help prevent wearing of the soft points over the hard points. So very softly I'm going to go over and remove all the super glue and start shining up the handle. I've made myself a little proxy handle out of a piece of scrap piece of metal. So off we go. Now always remember, when working with elephant tooth or even mammoth, slow belts and always fresh grits. So I've got a fresh 600 on here now. I previously did a fresh 400. For this particular shape handle, this is enough. But if you've got something more complex like a coffin handle or anything with corners, you may want to do this by hand rather than the machine. But for this, I find that the machine works very nicely. Okay, here we go. That's the handle with its final grind. I will then buff it and assemble it with the rest of the knife.